First Horizon Foundation.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Slice of the Community. I'm your host, Jerome Moore, and today we're live in studio, joined by an audience with Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell. Welcome. How you doing, Mayor?
Doing very well. I can tell there's going to be a dance party in here after.
Depending on the question, you might be one tap dancing up there. I don't know. But now, thank you for joining us here on the Slice of the Community of Nashville PBS. And I want to get straight into it. You know, you just really completed your first year in your first term as mayor. What would you rank or grade yourself? You can do from 1 to 10, but you can't use 7, or you can do from A to F. So yeah, you can't.
Right. Can't use 7, huh?
Can't use 7.
I would go with 8 then.
Okay.
It's funny, I would have chosen 7.
So you can't do neutrality. You got to pick a side. You got to lean one way or the other.
No, and I'll tell you why. We're an interesting city. We've got the third largest metro council in the United States of major American cities, and so having served in that body for 8 years, it's been really important to me to have a good relationship with the new class of council. And so I think about where our public acceptance is, where we are as a city, and so I want to share with everybody. It was very encouraging to me about halfway into this first year. The Vanderbilt University poll, which they do every year and have done for decades, had started to show a dip of, when we asked ourselves, are we on the right track or the wrong track? We had been on the wrong track for a few years. And so a few months into taking office, I was very encouraged to see that poll come out and say a majority of Nashvillians believe we are back on the right track. That's an important metric. As we move through the things, when we started, we had 3 transition committees as we took office, and they were focused on priorities we had heard directly from voters over more than a year of having a conversation with the city through August and September of last year, 2023. And so when we took office, day one, we set up 3 resident-led committees focused on how Nashville moves, how Nashville works, and how Nashville grows. We launched into that. We set up a master developer agreement for the East Bank, knowing that we had committed previously to arrange for financing for a new stadium for the Titans. We hired Bob Mendez to be our chief development officer. He worked out an agreement that secured a century's worth of affordable housing, some new infrastructure priorities, some good workforce opportunities, and the Metro Council unanimously accepted that. Capital spending plan focused on priorities all across the county, 3 new elementary schools, lots of heavy fleet, the kinds of stuff that Parks needs to keep our parks maintained, emergency vehicles, things that our first responders need. And then just a bunch of just neighborhood scale stuff that was straight up our How Nashville Grows Committee, unanimously supported by the council. We had a transportation improvement program that you can see my I voted sticker.
We're gonna get to the transit.
We'll talk to that. Dedicated funding, unanimously supported by the Metro Council. And our first operating budget that we enjoyed working with Chair of Budget and Finance, Delicia Porterfield on, unanimously supported by the Metro Council. So as we've gone through this first year, these 4 top priorities we've had, we feel like strong public acceptance, majority of the city believes we're on the right track. We are here in this phase of 1 year deep, early voting, election day, November 5th, but anybody can check our work, nashville.gov/progress.
Well, I want to get into something that's really top of mind, especially when you enter office. A local publication kind of came right at you for lack of diversity, right? And then we know your whole campaign is building a Nashville for Nashvillians and building an equitable, and equity has always been the top of mind when you think about that. You come under fire a little bit when you talk about equity and transparency around that, specifically with just arts, Metro Arts specifically, even being called out or practicing white supremacist acts when it comes to those things. Could you unpack that a little bit and maybe give us a little concise dialogue of where we are now with that? How did you take that, being called a white supremacist, practicing white supremacy in the arts, when we talk about black and brown people, when we talk about equitable arts and no music and arts and things, one of the things that thrives Nashville, especially, Nashvillians.
Yeah, and I'll say first and foremost, it's hard to get through 30 days knowing you're on a journey to 100 days. I know there's as I've started to work with other mayors from around the country, one of the first things I heard was from a mayor who said, what did you do in the first 100 days? I built a team. Well, yeah, but what did you accomplish? Well, I built a team to last this journey. That was our mission for the first 100 days, was to build a strong, durable team that could last over the course of the term. And sure, in the first few weeks, you may look at it and say, well, we're inviting people to stay from a previous administration. We did have a few people, we're very grateful did. We had a few people come join the administration from previous administrations. We wanted to have people that had experience, not just in Metro and the mayor's office. And by 100 days deep, we're incredibly proud of our team. When we looked at that first staff photo, it's incredible. We've got 4 of the Divine 9 represented within our administration. We've got 2 Spanish speakers. We think that, I know Davey Tucker is here from the Metro Human Relations Commission. We have relied on their inclusivics data to make sure that our administration is reflecting what the city looks like, and that was our goal from that standpoint. When you come to our staff meetings, when you look at what is today, 1 year deep, the administration, I think people will understand that we have been very intentional about hiring people who are qualified, who represent the geographic and demographic diversity of this city, and very proud of that team. Now, we had a very challenging conversation that occurred before I took office with regard to the Metro Arts Commission. But again, as we have moved through this year, we have worked very closely with the Metro Human Relations Commission, with the Metro Arts Commission, both staff and commissioners, and worked out a scenario where when I was on Metro Council, it was very exciting to be able to approve a budget from the council standpoint that added $2 million to a scenario where we thought arts organizations, large and small, representing the full diversity of Nashville, were going to thrive. There were some challenging conversations with our Department of Law, with the commissioners at the time. We have since reconstituted that commission. We have, again, taken the same approach, using the same factors that come from inclusivics to continue something that I give Mayor Cooper full credit for as my predecessor for diversifying our boards and commissions. If you look at that data over the first year, we have brought new people onto our commissions. We have brought new people specifically on the Arts Commission. We have reached a global settlement agreement with an additional $3 million. We know that Dr. Paulette Coleman, as the new interim director of Metro Arts, is working closely with that new commission, and we're thinking about funding strategies. But my personal attitude this whole time was, let's make sure we pay artists, let's make sure that our public arts funding strategy adheres to the principles of equity, and we paid everybody who has ever made a promise under any previous agreement using that additional $3 million, including small arts organizations, large arts organizations have been around for a long time, and muralists who didn't have a clear agreement, and we expect to have things go forward in a way that is stable, equitable, and builds for the future.
Pivoting to that, as far as we're talking about equitability and public safety, we know the Community Review Board has been something that's been contentious with the Community Oversight Board, which Jill Fisher is still leading the Community Review Board. Is there anything new with this MOU, Memorandum of Understanding? Where does Chief Drake play a part in that? Are you directly involved in making sure some new negotiations happen when it comes to community oversight, when it comes to policing, when it comes to public safety?
Yeah, sure. And we're speaking in a time where we've had some very troubling, challenging incidents related to public safety, but I was committed when I took office. For anybody who does not know this, last year the state preempted what was a community oversight board supported by the majority of Nashville voters who showed up to vote this, myself included. I think civilian oversight in policing is a very important principle. We weren't unique among Tennessee cities. Multiple Tennessee cities have this, multiple cities around the country have this. The state said, effectively, you've gone too far. They've taken a more stringent approach to kind of a law and order scenario, but they allowed jurisdictions across Tennessee to retain the idea of a civilian review board. When we took office, we had just a few weeks to meet a state-imposed deadline. We protected Director Fitchard of what is now the Civilian Review Board. We protected all of her staff. We made sure everybody still had jobs and that they had a mission. And so we have since had an important conversation in the community. We have responded to a variety of things. We have made sure that they have what is available under state law to have independent counsel, and I'm very pleased with the progress we're making. We hope that within just a few weeks we will be able to announce successful completion of a memorandum of understanding between our Civilian Review Board and the Metro Nashville Police Department. So far, from our perspective as an administration, the Metro Nashville Police Department has participated in good faith. The Civilian Review Board has participated in good faith, and I've been there to make sure that any obstacles that are present are removed. Our Department of Law has participated in good faith. The Civilian Review Board now does have that independent counsel working on that MOU and representing them in any challenges.
Okay. Affordability. You know, you've heard this. Nashville is a tale of two cities, one for people who've been here and the other is for newcomers. What are some things that your administration is trying to do to separate that notion or perspective of Nashville? You see in other kind of southern states, specifically Alabama with Montgomery and Birmingham, their mayors are taking on the guaranteed income initiative to try to alleviate some of that affordability problems. Is that something that your administration will look to do as well, or something to pilot here in Nashville when you talk about guaranteed income, or just other ways to make Nashville affordable and really cut this two tales of two city kind of narrative?
Yeah, and it's challenging because it's more than two cities. It's about 4, 5, 6 different kinds of cities. You've got our unhoused neighbors. One of the proudest things that I fought across 3 different administrations before I took office, and we were finally able to cut the ribbon on the Strobel House. Permanent supportive housing, supporting 90 unhoused residents in some of the most challenging conditions where they might seek housing. It is specifically for people who may be at greatest risk for chronically homeless, and we are hoping to have it fully occupied before the end of the year. So that is a major project of affordability. We're trying to expand on that for people who lack housing security altogether. We have had conversations with 2 different organizations representing the concept of a guaranteed basic income. I was a personal contributor to an early pilot of that called Moving Nashville Forward. That initiative didn't succeed completely, but some versions of it are still ongoing. We're trying to make sure.
Is the Nashville Economic Justice Alliance one of those organizations?
They are.
I kind of do my homework. I kind of know my work, a little bit.
They have come into our office. We have talked to them, and we're basically making sure that, I guess I'll say it this way, when multiple different people come at you with ideas, you want to make sure everybody's on the same page before you jump into the pool in the deep end. And so we're trying to make sure we get our diligence done. It is one of a variety of strategies. We are actively exploring it.
Is that something that we could possibly expect in the coming budget for next year, or?
We need to see, because what the original idea was they were going to raise fully private funds, and that's why I was a private donor to that, a personal individual donor to that, and so we're trying to evaluate if we should support this as a mostly public-private partnership in the nonprofit scenario, or if there's an opportunity there. We'll obviously have the conversation with Metro Council. But this has also been a big year for expanding our affordable housing toolkit. In addition to opening Strobel House, we have seen extraordinary success of thousands of units of affordable homes created by MDHA through a mixed income payment in lieu of taxes model. We have gotten the Barnes Affordable Housing Trust Fund up over that $150 million mark. They've been able to leverage that for more than $1 billion to create, again, thousands of affordable homes. Some of those are already up and running and people are renting or buying. Some of those are under construction. Some of those, again, supplement what we did with Strobel House, and Park Center has been able to create some new permanent supportive housing projects there. So we have a mix of public and private facilities. We just launched this summer a new project called the Catalyst Fund. Vanderbilt University supported it, First Horizon Bank. The Housing Division has given us a great tool here. Private funders and Metro committing $20 million to this. This is a tool that lets us, if something is going to go on the market that has dozens to hundreds of people already living in a stable rent environment, mission-driven developers can come in, jump in, buy that, preserve it as long-term affordable housing. So we're trying to build new, preserve, help our unhoused population, and then in addition to all of that, the Housing Division at Metro Planning, within the next few weeks, we are expecting to release a unified housing strategy. That should follow on the Affordable Housing Task Force report that we have spent now 4 cycles investing in the Barnes Housing Trust Fund, exploring revenue opportunities, and of course, for me personally, transportation, access to transit, safe roads, streets, sidewalks are an affordable housing strategy. My pathway into home ownership came from being a bike commuter and transit user, a bus rider, someone who could walk as safely as a pedestrian. And we know that already today, if you are within a quarter mile of our fairly limited transit system, you're saving $200 a year more than your neighbors who are a little more removed. So what is on the ballot right now, our transportation improvement program, is part of our affordable housing strategy.
You mentioned the word preservation. Unfortunately, we just had a unfortunate incident that happened during the TSU homecoming where one person was killed, 9 people was injured during a shooting that occurred. It didn't have anything to do with TSU itself, but just the area, right? And you get this sentiment, this stigma that say, hey, this area, North Nashville, is a bad area. I disagree. I say it's been a neglected area. And our HBCUs have been an integral part to Nashville and what Nashville is. How does your administration plan to kind of right some of those neglecting historical systemic things that has made this area what it is? Not maybe the healthiest, but it's not due to the people, it's due to systemic things and being neglected for so long.
Yeah, I think that's why this was so challenging, is so many members of our team, so many members of the community were out not just on Saturday prior to homecoming itself for TSU, but also that Friday with a fish fry, a gala. TSU's homecoming is one of those wonderful, just overall HBCU homecoming events in Nashville and Tennessee. I had the extraordinary honor and privilege for 8 years of representing the entire Fisk University footprint, the Avon Williams campus of Tennessee State University. We have continued to try to invest in those, including in business incubation centers that have been originated out of TSU. We made a $9 million commitment to Fisk University from some one-time federal funding that helped ensure that Fisk University was not one of the HBCUs, sadly, we have seen closing around the United States. We have also enjoyed some support from the Biden-Harris administration. We have seen incredible money flowing into Meharry Medical College. Locally, one of the things I was proudest of before I left the Metro Council was ensuring that faculty, staff, and students at all 4 of our historically black colleges and universities could access our public transportation system without having to worry about fares. We actually just had to readjust because Meharry Medical College students, faculty, and staff were using transit at such extraordinary rates that we had to reallocate some additional money to continue that first year success. So great success story there. I think everybody in here understands that there have been some funding challenges with the state, some administration challenges with the state of Tennessee with regard to Tennessee State University, but they have been adding extraordinary talent across the board for academic and athletics.
And what is the mayor's role in being able to get some of that funding back from the state? Because I don't think a lot of people maybe understand what power that you have or don't have in trying to solicit those funds that have been neglected from Tennessee State University.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would say I fully understand what power I have or don't have. It is functionally, it is a state funding issue that they flow most of their funding in. We try to support where we can. I have been present at homecoming parades and other events around homecoming for TSU for decades. We stay in close contact with Representative Harold Love. He has been a fantastic advisor to our administration about things related to Tennessee State University. We're very fortunate to have multiple TSU alumni on our administration staff and our team. So we're fully committed to their success, but I tend to show up. I try to encourage community support for those programs. I think having Eddie George at the helm of the football team, watching Penny Collins not only pour into TSU's men's basketball team, but watching also TSU experience innovation. They have added a men's ice hockey program. We have watched Fisk add a national championship gymnastics program. We are in the American Baptist College scenario where they are celebrating their centennial as one of our HBCUs. We have watched both TSU and Fisk enjoy Grammy Awards for the Fisk Jubilee Singers and the Aristocrat of Bands, respectively. We have watched Meharry Medical College draw in a $175 million grant from Bloomberg and private donations on top of that. I mean, across the board, we are seeing a strength and robustness in our HBCUs, but it's hard because we have to have a great overall liaison and relationship with the state of Tennessee, and they have been concerned about some of the financial administration at TSU in particular.
And how can newcomers that may not represent the demographic of a North Nashville support those type of TSU homecomings, Fisk homecomings, and just understanding the history and the part that plays in that community and not running with this stigmas that it's a quote unquote bad area. What would you say to the newcomers coming into Nashville?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be hard. I mean, this is a hard question because I want to be sensitive to the fact that I don't want people ever to engage in something that may run the risk of either gentrification or cultural appropriation. But I would say go listen to that music first and foremost. The Fisk Jubilee Singers are the reason we are Music City.
Correct.
And that they just celebrated Jubilee Day over at Fisk University on October 6th. Every single year, it's amazing. If you go listen to any generation of the Fisk Jubilee Singers, including in the moment that they won the Grammy, you are going to hear an incredible journey of music that includes, hymnals and traditional music and contemporary music as well. On Jubilee Day, it was amazing to hear I've Got the Whole World in My Hands with Stacey Abrams as sort of the keynote speaker of that day. But anybody of any background, you do not have to be an alumni, you do not have to be a student, you do not have to be faculty and staff, but you can go over and experience the Carl Van Vechten galleries at Fisk University and see world-class art and realize there's a partnership between Fisk and the Frist Art Museum. You can go to the Fisk homecoming games where historically men's and women's basketball programs show up on the basketball court. You can go to the TSU homecoming game and watch Eddie George lead the Tigers to a second year in a row of victory at Nissan Stadium. You can be a donor to any of this stuff. You can be a direct donor to any of our 4 HBCUs. Okay. It is very, very easy to access their campuses, to go see historic Fisk University's campus, to go see some of these athletic facilities and watch as these programs interact with us. It's amazing to have had TSU students partner with us, our local Department of Transportation, NDOT, and Vanderbilt University researchers as we create a new smart corridor along an area that's close to campus.
Now, let's go ahead and cap it off with this referendum, November 5th, Election Day. Early voting is happening now. For those who may not know,
Day 2 of early voting.
Go participate.
I got my sticker
you got your
on.
sticker
I went
on.
and voted today.
What does this mean for the future of Nashville going forward with this transit plan on the referendum for November 5th? And if it doesn't happen, we got to, the what ifs, unpack that for us a little bit.
Sure. We spent a lot of this first year. We had a lot going on. Again, nashville.gov/progress, you can see what we've been up to for the first year. Nashville.gov/transit, you can see one of our top priorities. In one of our very first conversations, I mean, a slice of the community, and I'm still sitting here with no pizza. I mean, our very first conversation.
We're not gonna do that,
Our very first conversation.
We're not doing that, man. There's a whole slew of pizza in the back. For those who don't know, you're not gonna do that to me on television. You're not doing it.
All right, so we will look only to the future here. But in one of our very first conversations, we talked about the concept of dedicated funding for transportation and infrastructure. We are one of only 4 of the top 50 American cities that has not chosen to invest in ourselves. If you go to any location right now during early voting, if you go to your precinct on Election Day on November 5th, you will get past all the candidates on page 1, and ideally you will scroll to page 2, and you will see 250 words that describe a transportation improvement program that we think effectively serves the entire city with 4 key principles of sidewalk signal service and safety, where we will build 86 miles of new sidewalk along corridors like Clarksville Pike, like Dickerson, like Murfreesboro, like Nolensville, some of the places that we have identified as the most dangerous in the city. The largest number of fatal crashes that we have seen occur on 6% of our roadways, and it's because if you walk along some of these major pikes and corridors, you will see the sidewalk eventually ends and you will see a dirt path, and it's not because people aren't walking. That dirt path exists there because people are trying to walk in an area that lacks both safety and dignity. So we want to give that through sidewalks and connect people up to those corridors so that you can walk to those schools, parks, and libraries close to you, so that you can walk to that small business district. We also want to combine that with upgrading 2/3 of our signalized intersections across the city to connect to the just opened traffic management center that NDOT has created that is state of the art. We want to run fiber to those. We want to know not just where my car is for one intersection, but if I am leaving a Preds game, if I am leaving a music performance, if I am leaving TSU's homecoming, that we want to know that we can give more green lights to everybody. With this smart grid that we're about to create, we think that everybody in the city can reclaim 10% at least of the time in the 56 hours we all spend in traffic in the worst commute in the nation, which is what Forbes magazine designated us early in the country, early in the year. The final piece of this is 24/7, 365 transit access, and all of this is linked together by the fourth principle, which is safety. It is all on your ballot at the very end. You can go to vote.nashville.gov to learn what is on your sample ballot, where your early voting locations are, and anything about the election.
Everybody give it up for Mayor Freddie O'Connell. I appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Give it up one more time. Yeah. Thank you all for watching another episode of A Slice of the Community. If you would like to continue our conversation with Mayor Freddie O'Connell and ask questions, please head over to our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/@WNPT. Appreciate it. Cool. All right, so Mayor, we're here in the Q&A portion. Again, people feel free to come up to the mic. It was real quick. The interview was fast. I know it's a lot of the things that you can unpack, especially just completing your first year and your first term. Is there anything, I know we touched on a lot. We touched on people calling you white supremacists. We touched on just the whole equity thing and the transparency of just local government. Of course, we touched on transit with the referendum coming up on November 5th. Is there anything that you want to extrapolate on a little deeper, just around your first term, whether it's opportunities or challenges that we didn't hit on?
Yeah, happy to do that. And Jerome, again, thank you for this opportunity. Thanks for everybody who showed up in person tonight. Some of my favorite things are the things that maybe don't grab the headlines, don't maybe attract as much attention, and really are a celebration of the people who have been doing important work maybe for a long time. So we have some incredible folks at our Metro Public Health Department who have been in a 5-year, what I would call a pilot of a program called Nashville Strong Babies. And we have known that Nashville, not unique among American cities, has seen some challenges among Black and brown mothers and infants with maternal mortality and infant mortality. So some really amazing leadership in the Metro Public Health Department started a program called Nashville Strong Babies. The whole point was to help people celebrate their first birthday and be set up for success. And what's amazing is that in the first 5 years of this program, before I took office, so I don't get any credit for this, this is all leadership at MPHD and the people who participated. This program in just a handful of zip codes resulted in 100% maternal survival. So this is a big deal. It also resulted in a measurable reduction in infant mortality, and their success resulted in something we get to celebrate now as a city. The Health and Human Services Department at the federal level gave us a multi-year, multi-million-dollar grant that lets us make this program countywide. NashvilleStrongBabies.com. It helps with prenatal support. It is no cost to participating mothers and families, and it supports you through that first year after your child is born. So you get prenatal support, labor and delivery support, first year support, big deal. It's already working. 100% maternal survival rate is an incredible success metric for the Metro Public Health Department. Now we can offer it countywide. It is extraordinary to be able to do that. Very closely related to that, one of my favorite things I got to do very early in office was join the Matthew Walker Comprehensive Healthcare Center on Jefferson Street, launch a wellness opportunity zone. This is a program where our investment of $1 million joins multiple partners, including Matthew Walker, including Nashville Food Project, including Senior Ride, following a cohort of multiple people in the 37208 zip code where I live who are at greater risk of experiencing hypertension or high blood pressure. And it is a program to involve them to try to reduce that health risk. It's a 3-year program. We have gone through a couple different phases where all those things kick in, so that nutrition availability, that transportation and mobility options are available. And so that is something where a small investment is going to have a big impact. We just launched something called Reset. That's a program with AgeWell Middle Tennessee. It's got Tennessee Justice Center involved. It's got United Way involved. This honestly emphasizes an amazing successful program within Metro, the Financial Empowerment Center, which has been up and running for more than a decade. Already today, anybody can go to fec.nashville.gov and find free financial counseling with no income restrictions. I have had a friend go through it for counseling on buying her first home, but it has resulted in elimination of millions of dollars of bad debt in its first decade and millions of dollars of increase in savings. And what we have done is enhance it for aging Nashvillians to be able to allow them to understand benefits programs that they may be able to participate in that they are not today. And so both in those very, very early stages of life, something that I also got to do in the first weeks in office was we expanded Nashville Grad to Nashville Flex students at Nashville State. This is a program where we invest in book supplies and other materials, and I got to speak for the first time ever at a commencement. It was Nashville State, and one of the students who spoke was a Nashville Flex part-time student that we had expanded this program to, who had successfully graduated. It was an extraordinary scenario. Of those part-time students who have enrolled, all 55 who are part-time Nashville State students supported by our Flex program have re-enrolled. We are supporting people from prenatal to birth. We just launched the Nashville Early Education Coalition to support those years before kindergarten. We are trying to support people in the workforce, whether they're part-time or full-time students, improving their lives. And as they age, our whole project is try to make it easier for people to stay in this city.
Okay. Do we have a question? Come on.
The long walk
The
to
long
the
walk.
microphone.
Like you about to join church. that type of walk.
I didn't want to be rude and like be
No,
interrupted.
go ahead.
It's all good.
Shabir Bagani, Vice Chair of Bagani Education. Glad to hear about the transit program and what's going to happen with if the referendum passes. But I want to know, what is that going to cost Nashvillians?
Yeah, so this is an important question. We are asking Nashvillians, but actually a majority of people outside of Nashville, to chip in a half penny on every dollar we spend on sales tax. So basically this is an investment we make over the next 15 years plus to build out that 86 miles of sidewalk, transform corridors that are currently very dangerous. But it's basically what you're paying already today if you go to Mount Juliet and shop at the Providence Shopping Center, if you go down to Cool Springs Galleria. We are effectively bringing ourselves in line in terms of a sales tax rate with the rest of Middle Tennessee, but that half penny on your sales tax will actually, that capture will be paid for by a majority of people who live outside of Davidson County. It is going to be supported by the majority of regional residents or people arriving at our Nashville International Airport. But if you go into Walmart, Target, Kroger, any place that you are spending $50, you're going to put a quarter in the jar. We expect that the $70 or less that most Nashvillians will spend on this program will result in that kind of $200 a year savings that you enjoy if you are living close to a transit access point, or the just overall comprehensive network of benefits and time you reclaim to be more productive at work, to have more time with friends and family, and spend more time being in the places you enjoy with the people you love, rather than spending time getting to them and circling for parking while you are trying to get to them.
Hey, Freddie.
Hello.
Maris here, and I actually have a follow-up question with the transit referendum. First, two actually. First, oh shoot, I'm sorry. One.
Jerome
half.
limits
I
you to
knew
one,
somebody was
apparently.
going to do it.
The rules
You
are hard
know,
here. Pick one.
Okay, so I was curious why we're one of 4 cities that didn't have this already instilled. I know that was kind of before you, but
Yeah.
what have other cities done, and why is this kind of coming into the view now? Why are we doing this now?
Yeah, some of this so this is about dedicated funding and why we're one of only 4 cities. And the other cities are Hartford, Connecticut, Orlando, Florida, and Memphis, Tennessee, in the top 50. And part of the reason has been it's just what the state makes possible. We didn't even have the opportunity to do this until 2017 when the state passed an Improve Act. Fun fact, as they were preparing this, they also unilaterally and voluntarily reduced our tax on groceries. This is something that people didn't really pay a lot of attention to at the time, but I paid a lot of attention to, because we don't want this program to be more of a burden. I think we're going to have even more opportunities. This program will let us, for the first time ever, since we've had our Nashville MTA, now We Go Public Transit, offer free or reduced fares to people based on their income. So a lot of things come into it, but it was that state enabling legislation, the Improve Act in 2017, that let us do this. Before this, really nowhere in Tennessee could effectively do dedicated funding for transportation and infrastructure. And so it varies on a state-by-state basis and on a city-by-city basis. And this is something under that state enabling legislation to support the financing plan for our program, which again, you can go look at nashville.gov/transit, see interactive maps for how it's going to impact the area closest to you or the place you work, spend time with friends and family. But it is the first time that 2017 gave us that opportunity to pursue dedicated funding. And so some of it has been, we haven't really had the tools available, but some of it has also been, we've got to choose to make this investment in ourselves together as voters.
Good evening, Qasim Bagani, co-founder, chairperson of Bagani Education. Our vision is to see a future of STEM equity for everyone. So my question is, Mayor, what does equity mean to you, and how can Black and brown citizens of Nashville actually be a part of closing that equity gap?
Yeah, I think, I've thought a lot since I ever first saw the 2 different images of the difference between equality and equity, where kids trying to watch a baseball game, and equality being the version where everybody gets 2 boxes to stand on, but they're kids at 3 different heights. And the equity version being the one where all 3 kids, based on height, have the right number of boxes to allow them to watch the baseball game. And so for me, that's informed a lot about the principles. We want everybody in the city, regardless of age, income, ability, any socioeconomic or demographic factor, to be able to have access to the city, access to education, access to jobs, access to housing. Fundamentally, our goal is to help Nashvillians of all backgrounds, the duration of time in Nashville. If you decide to live here, as Mayor Dean once said, the best compliment anyone can choose to pay a city is to choose to live there. And so for Black and brown folks in particular, one of, again, a favorite announcement that we made earlier this year is that we are, as Metro, the local government backbone sponsor for My Brother's Keeper. You may appreciate this and understand this, but Lionel Matthews, our juvenile court clerk, Ashford Hughes at Metro Schools have long been shepherding this incredible process of early literacy, but lifelong thriving for young men of color. So that's one element, but we have a variety of folks on our team who are focused on a whole array of options, particularly for Black and brown youth. We have a great Mayor's Youth Council supported by Dr. Watisha Lawless-Mitchell on our team. Brittany Irby, as our Senior Director of Civic and Community Engagement, is supervising a number of programs. We were just over at the Goal Collective earlier today that is focused actually on adult literacy and making sure that we're not leaving people who maybe missed those opportunities earlier in their lives to participate fully in not just the workforce, but educational opportunities. So I think from my perspective, we are trying to elevate programs that already exist and expand and strengthen those with partnerships. For me, I view the role of mayor fundamentally as something where I get to serve as partner in chief. And what's been really refreshing for me over the past year is that we have seen a lot of our partnerships strengthen. So I look forward to visiting with you and making sure you're connected with some of our amazing team members. So if you're not already participating in some of these great either coalitions or collective impact scenarios like the Nashville Early Education Coalition or like the Goal Collective, that we get you plugged in because we want your mission to be very aligned with ours.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback off of that, I think a lot of times, especially if you're from Nashville, if you've been here a long time, you look around, it's like, there's a lot of money coming in, right? How can I get some of this money, but I might not be in construction. I may not be in real estate. I might not be in the things that in the forefront of say, hey, there's money there to be made. Like if I'm a small business and I don't really cater to tourism because it just, I have a service-based business, how do I still be able to thrive in a place where it has the economic revenue coming in, it's just not hitting my pockets?
Yeah, and I think to that end, one thing that I've really loved about watching our economic and community development team grow alongside sort of our overall development office, Bob Mendez leading that effort, Jamari Brown leading the ECD effort, we now have a Black and brown ECD team where we just hired Lily Beth Leon, a Spanish speaker, to join Jamari as we strengthen and reinforce the Employment Business Opportunity Program, which is specifically designed to try to create pathways into metro procurement that may not have existed previously. Over the life of that program, and again, I was happy to be a supporting member of the cast of great leaders like Tanika Vercher, Sharon Hurt, who led on this with Mayors Berry and Briley before me. But that program, since it was originally conceived, has resulted in almost $1 billion worth of investment into women and minority-owned companies. Jamari is currently at work on the Prosper Nashville project, which is already funded, which is economic study. Coming back to what you mentioned about Jefferson Street and sort of that TSU corridor and stigma, Jamari and Brittany Irby on our team are working on a Jefferson Street specific project with the Civic Design Center and JUMP. We're trying in every part of the city. I just participated in the state of Bordeaux and talked about things that we are working on all the way up to there, all the way out to Antioch. We want access to Nashville's prosperity to be real. The Titans committed to a 25% DBE target for the construction of their new stadium. We said we wanted to do better. We've got a 30% target for the East Bank as a whole, and we're trying to make sure we hold ourselves to that standard both in staffing, again, across Metro based on inclusivics, but also in our overall public investment strategy. So we're trying to get there.
Hi, Melissa Spradlin with Bookham. You've achieved a lot in 1 year, and you've got a few more years left. So I'm curious as to, I know you have a lot of ambitions for the city and for our people. What's next on the horizon?
So the next 19 days, we will be encouraging people to get out to vote for our transportation improvement program. But after that, and Melissa's amazing, I got, again, in the very early days of my administration, I got to come speak with Bookham about their incredible project. I just saw them over, and again, Pastor Tucker over at Celebrate Nashville. I got to be in the bookmobile over there for Bookham. But we think about all of these things in terms of where we are in terms of priority. We were very fortunate. Chair Porterfield on Budget and Finance Committee got us some new opportunities for funding for youth safety in particular under the varsity spending plan that was presented at public hearing for Metro Council during the budget process. We're working on that. We also expect the Nashville Early Education Coalition to mean that we focus a lot on childcare. We're going to continue to reinforce our affordable housing toolkit. I'm very, very excited about what we think we've seen from preliminary kind of just data from the team that the Housing Division has been working on with at Metro Planning that may give us an even more robust toolkit for affordable housing by the end of the year, and looking into leaning into that. If we are successful on November 5th, November 6th is going to be a very exciting day because we start to implement a long-term strategy for transportation and infrastructure. But I think if you looked at it, if we know that we've got a bedrock of safety in schools with great leadership from Chief Drake at MMPD, Director Fitchard, the Office of Family Safety with Diane Lance, and Dr. Battle at Metro Schools, and lots of our partners, including Melissa and others around. You already heard me talk about my brother's keeper. That pathway from prenatal through pre-K, success in K through 12, journeys into post-secondary or workforce development. I think we've got a lot there to make sure people have access to our economic opportunity. Coming back to a focus on seniors from work we got from the community needs evaluation through Metro Social Services, but I think it's transportation, it's housing, it's childcare, it's senior support, and it's ultimately making sure, again, that under the banner of reducing cost of living where we can, improving quality of life where we can, and making sure that everybody who has chosen to live in Nashville has the opportunity to stay here and thrive.
Thank you. I'm Bobby Watts with the National Healthcare for the Homeless Council. And Mayor, thank you for your support and interest in addressing homelessness from your time on City Council. As you know, each year, the number of people experiencing homelessness who die while experiencing homelessness in Nashville has increased, which is a public health crisis. And several cities have their health departments involved in that, and want to ask, are there any plans to have the health department more involved, and if so, what?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Bobby, that's a great question, and thank you. And I know you've got years worth of commitment to this, so thank you for your service. And it's tough because data about this is something that I've worked on personally. We've actually seen a very marginal reduction in the number of people dying from exposure and homelessness. Our point in time count that we do with HUD, as you know, again, shows some variable statistics, but I worked very hard to make sure that our homeless management information system implementation was as good as it can be. We've seen more people participating in that. I think we've actually got better data overall. We're going to continue that because that data drives better performance. I helped lead the creation of an Office of Homeless Services, which just celebrated its first year. We've clearly got more to do. Full credit to Mayor Cooper. When he was in office, he made sure that some of our one-time federal funding to the tune of $50 million gave us the biggest investment we've ever made in mitigating the impact of homelessness. Opening Strobel House is one important first step. Park Center and other nonprofit partners who are working through the Barnes Housing Trust Fund to create permanent supportive housing, and you know as well as anyone the importance of getting services in there. But yes, we want our public health apparatus deeply engaged. Just today, we submitted the letter for a reconstituted Behavioral Health and Wellness Advisory Committee. It's going to work on the opioid epidemic, but my hope is that there will be a lot of proximity between the BWAC, the Behavioral Health and Wellness Advisory Committee, and our Homelessness Planning Council. Again, you know as well as anybody probably in this room about the importance of the continuum of care, and we are going to continue to work to align these things. I've been personally very involved in this, having represented District 19, our urban core, on the Metro Council, but I am cautiously optimistic that we're going to continue to make strides that promote more housing, more services, and fewer deaths from just that lack of housing security. So thank you for the critically important question.
Hi, Mayor O'Connell, Susan Shan. Because the transit issue is top of mind for a lot of us, and because it'll be on the ballot, I want to go back to that for a minute. I was surprised to receive an email from our council person where I live talking about disproportionately affecting low-income residents without clear benefits. That surprised me. I made it a point to really look at the transit plan and understand the details, and I thought your members of your staff and administration have done a really good job of interfacing with the public and having that dialogue and being very clear about how the money will be spent. And I understand, and you talked a little bit about the tax. One of the things that was suggested in the email was that the O'Connell administration should look for alternative sources of funding, federal infrastructure grants, that kind of thing, or reallocations of the existing budget, which I think is probably not an option because I know how tight the budget is.
You know, some people don't like the plan.
I have a very clear response to this question.
Okay, because I just want to clarify that when I had questions about what the plan entailed and how the money would be spent, I found clear answers. And so I just want to know more about that funding issue. I was, again, surprised by the email and would like to get more clarification.
Yeah, this was particularly interesting because your district council member voted for the program when we were going to put it on the ballot.
Who's that, Council Person?
You know, if Susan wants to reveal that.
Who was that?
This was very surprising to us for a variety of reasons because we had met with the District 1 council member.
District 1, okay.
And in fact, that email was full of things that if she had engaged with our transportation team, which met with almost all council members, she would have understood that there really, other than the IMPROVE Act, there is no way to dedicate funding to transportation the same way we've had a great and rewarding and challenging conversation with our friends at NOAA for years about the extraordinary challenge of trying to dedicate funding to things like affordable housing. Our friends at Metro Schools ask every year, but it's so hard because the state has such a limited toolkit for us to say anything other than our year-over-year capital and operating projects. And so if I had told you today, before November 5th, that we're going to go transform Dickerson Pike across the next 5 years, that would be an empty promise because we may start construction either close to downtown or at the northern end of Dickerson, and literally next year, the Metro Council could choose to amend the budget and that project would be incomplete. The whole point of dedicated funding and the reason why the 46 other cities, literally what we're doing right now today is we are investing in cities like Denver and Charlotte and Austin and Indianapolis and Cleveland to build better transit systems and better infrastructure in their cities because we are sending billions of dollars to Washington, D.C. that is then made available to those cities because they're eligible for programs that we are simply not right now. And the one time they decided to put money in our budget to build a demonstration project, we said, just kidding, which was the AMP, the East-West Connector that would have run high-capacity transit from 5 points in East Nashville to St. Thomas West. And that put us even further back in consideration of large-scale federal and state funding allocations. It put us further back in what the Greater Nashville Regional Council looks to in terms of allocating things. And so I'm not sure I understand completely what her objections are, but the reality is it's going to be as impactful for District 1 and most of North Nashville, and you can go look at this. If you go to nashville.gov/transit, we've got a whole series of community assets that show literally what is in it for Bordeaux and North Nashville because it is miles and miles of sidewalks. It is projects like the Rip Patton North Nashville Community Transit Center that just opened a few weeks ago and is one of 2 centers outside of downtown that we have opened in a decade. And immediately on the day it opened, not only did it expand access from 10,000 jobs to people who used to live in that area to 60,000 because they don't all have to come in downtown just to go out some other side. They can go right across the river on Trinity Lane. It's extraordinary what the impact was of just opening that center. And I know firsthand because I was there for the ribbon cutting. And what I realized was as I went over to the WPLN studios to record an episode of This Is Nashville, I realized standing there, wait a second, I looked at my phone, I realized from the ribbon cutting, it was less than 10 minutes on the route that I used to take to my house, the number 9 Metro Center, that now connected to this new community transit center that uplifts our civil rights legacy, celebrates Dr. Ernest Rip Patton himself, has lots of public art in it, is this massive economic impact center right there where we're engaging TSU students and Vanderbilt students and our local Department of Transportation. And I hopped on the bus and I went right over to Metro Center on the bus and was able to participate in public radio. And that is exactly the kind of benefit that residents of District 1 are going to participate. And fortunately, just across the street in District 2, our friend and partner, Vice Chair of Budget and Finance in the Metro Council, Quante Toombs, just sent out an email today espousing the benefits of this for her residents, which are going to be exactly the same for the residents of District 1.
I want to go back to something we talked about earlier, and I don't know how many people really understand how important this is, but the MOU, right, with the Civilian Review Board. And as I said earlier, that's been contentious from the COB transferring over to the Civilian Review Board. Now, during that time, everything was supposed to be in good faith, but Community Oversight Board was having a hard time receiving things from MMPD. If you see that is still the case going forward, is that a leadership change with Chief Drake, or what does that look like on your end? And
yeah, there are a few moving parts here. I'm sure you're aware we had a troubling series of allegations that came out from a former member of the Metro Nashville Police Department earlier this year.
Correct.
I requested that we conduct an independent investigation of those allegations. That is underway right now. We have been working with Director Fitchard all year to make sure that she has the resources she needs to succeed in her role. We worked out most recently a pathway for her to have the closest thing that we can legally offer after the state preempted us almost fully on what was the Community Oversight Board the majority of Nashvillians who voted for. And so we made sure staffing and all of those things were intact, and now they have nearly independent legal counsel. And then finally, we are working on this memorandum of understanding with the police department. I think that's going to resolve almost everything.
Okay.
If we don't get there, that's when I jump in and intervene.
Okay.
But we expect that independent investigation to come with recommendations. We will be evaluating those seriously. But I think right now, the overall atmosphere, just like where I think we got to, and again, credit to Pastor Tucker as Executive Director of Metro Human Relations Commission. They were deeply involved in the conversation about Metro Arts. We think leadership there. We have gotten to a good place with agreements. We think this MOU is going to be similarly stabilizing and foster a good faith relationship between the review process, Metro Nashville Police Department, our administration, and the Department of Law.
All right, well, we got 40 seconds left, Mayor. I guess, I thought we had more questions, but, maybe I just did a hell of a job, and, I just got all the stuff out the way. Any last thoughts in 30 seconds?
I just want to say thank you. It has been the honor and privilege of a lifetime to represent this community. I hope everybody in here understands that I go to work every day to work with an incredible team of good people trying to do good things. If you talk to any of our interns who spent the summer with us, that was one of my favorite moments, was them reflecting on their experience in the mayor's office. And so thank you for participating tonight. Thank you for supporting our local public television station. And thank you for helping support me as I had this opportunity. I'm working hard for you all every day.
Yep. And thank you all again. And thank everybody on YouTube for watching and tuning in. Appreciate you on YouTube. That's it. That's the show.